Well, hello everyone. Here to show you the color model field trip. You see color activity right here. As you see right here is I went ahead and you see drew right here is a picture. You see if a school bus it is, and basically talking about with the school bus memories it is. Just talk about your color model field trip it is, and basically that the story about besides it's like what you call like if you saw from the previous coloring video that I went ahead and did was basically about besides field trips it was. I remember that whenever I was in school I didn't like staying after class either. A lot of times that there will be like what you call is like student activities it was to where that they would if you sign up for the activities, a lot of times it was related to, say, after school events. It was. He's like right here is the purple, permanent marker. It is, but basically is that the story about the school memories. It was that if most of us can remember that, in order to be able to go on a field trip, that we had to have like what you call is like a approval, parent or legal guardian, approval. Permission sent home. It's like before you can go ahead and go on a field trip it was. And I can remember once or twice that I had forgotten the form it was, and then of course couldn't go on a field trip, or maybe think once or twice could not afford to go or something. I think some of them that even cost money just to go, but on the other hand too, that knowing about that in a few places that I can remember going on a field trip it was that a few of them was I think the Science Center, the St. Louis Science Center, and then of course it was the a few other places that I can't really remember the name of all of them. But then there's a Magic House, of course, was one location that I think I mentioned from the previous video. But on the other hand too, that knowing about is that with the field trips it is just knowing about that you go on the field trips it is, and then the next thing you know and then you go to a certain place it is, and you enjoy going to the field trip, and then by the time you get back to the school, and then sometimes they even want you to write a paper or two about about how your journey was and stuff. And I can remember it's like knowing about it's like with a lot of times with the miles by count. This is knowing about color mile field is that talk about it's like knowing about how far say you travel. With some of them, some field trips that were at least say maybe a 10-mile drive it was. I would say at least 10-mile drive, but I remember about the whole purpose about the field trip of course was that hey that like being on the highway, of course, some of the time when they were going on a field trip, because knowing about back whenever I was younger that any distance you further than 5 or so miles, more likely that knowing about the parents not going to let you go on the field trip anyway, because that's too far of a drive, or or people probably thinking about you may think that maybe you just want to kind of get out of the school a little bit, and back then though that was before I even was a licensed driver. So in a lot of ways that no matter if I've been to a location before, that it's like if we were going on a field trip to somewhere I've already been before, that for whatever reason, and for whatever reason, that particular reason it was, and just knowing about what the field trips it was, that I still want to go because I want to go with my class it was. And so a few locations that I think the St. Louis Zoo was one location that the school had gone to a lot of times on a field trip. And I can remember that been there like last year and the year before, and then of course it was the year before that it was, and so and a lot of times it was like that. Well, you've been there. We were there even around the summertime, and I don't know why you want to go on a field trip again. But in a lot of ways, it's just knowing about with the field trip it is that. Right here is a school bus, and then go ahead and draw right here. It's like with the marker, but you got right here is like the highway. So go ahead and draw. It's like you got right here is the highway. But other than that, like knowing about that yeah, whenever the school bus will be on the highway, it is a lot of times that that will be what you call some excitement, is just knowing about that, being able to seem like, if you think that you maybe if you get that feeling like maybe if just to get out of school for maybe a couple of hours, or maybe about 3 hours, something like that, maybe 3 or 4 hours, and that knowing about that, yep, get on the highway and then drive about 15 miles, ride the school bus going about 15 miles to some park or whatever. And if I can remember right, that that there was the class, the classes would go with, and if I can remember right, the YMCA, if I can remember right, the YMCA, I think, was a recreation center, was one place that we did go to as well. But on the other hand too, that knowing about with the color miles, they field trip is talking about is that you say go ahead and follow is with the different colors right here. Go ahead and use, it's a variety of colors like you got right there with the marker, and then of course with the crayon. And I usually use say a combination of marker and crayon, just to know. I'm like, yeah, use the marker as like for the outlines it is. But basically talking about is that with the school bus right here is knowing about that yeah, I can remember that at the school events it was that I would go right on the school bus it was, and just knowing about that after school's over with, and then they would have the buses parked, and then knowing about with me that nope, I don't want to stay after. I'm not staying over after for this event or whatever. A lot of times that it's like decision about knowing about if you don't have to stay after, then you don't have to stay after. And so staying after school, and of course that knowing about is like getting on the bus, and of course getting off the bus. But on the other hand too, that knowing about with the school bus it is, and just knowing about that hey, it's like with the school bus it is that if you're talking about going somewhere, and then a lot of times that they say if you're going to be going on a field trip, and sometimes they give you a form that you got to fill out. It's like, especially whenever we went to the St. Louis Zoo, it was that they have a form that you got to fill out, and they ask you to fill it out, and then sometimes that they would say that you lose points if you wind up losing it at the zoo or something like that, or you don't fill it out at all. That of course a lot of times that they would have it to where that they would the students would kind of get on teams. It's like if they go somewhere, and then a lot of times that they get on like a team of four students and one guardian, one supervisor, say adult it is, that they would usually have it. It's like if it usually worked that way. But somebody that would fill out the form, and usually they would say something like that about the animal, of course, at the St. Louis Zoo, about the animal. And a lot of times like about the animal, about where they live, and of course about how long they live for it, and then about their eating environment, you say that, and then of course about you say about their culture, and all this, all that other detail it is. And a lot of times getting to wonder about that yeah, you go in there, and then you look at the animals it is, and then they give you a form a lot of times. And once or twice that I don't think they didn't really leave me in charge with it, other than the fact about you have to stay with the group it is. It's like it's like a decimal fraction it is knowing about if you're going to be going on a field trip it is, that they would have it to where they have a group. See, if I can remember right, a few field trips I went on whenever I was in school, some of them that would have like, say, a group of 8 people, and some of them that would have like a, say, group of 3. Have like a group of 3, and then they would have you going to different locations. It is say in the building, but on the other hand too, that knowing about with me that if whenever the field trips came up a lot of times, and just knowing about I want to go, and then once or twice, yeah, the teachers would say, if you didn't bring the form, oh, just like what you see on one of those cartoon shows, like, oh, you didn't bring the form for your parents' permission to go on a trip. Well, and if I can remember right, that I cannot remember if I was ever sent to the principal's office, at all, if I had to miss a field trip. But during the times that I had I miss a field trip, it was that a lot of times I was like that, I would either say, this is, I'm having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day or whatever, and then on your hand too, that knowing about that was like with the school bus right here, is knowing about getting on the bus and then getting off the bus it was, and knowing about, if any kid that they could probably think about, it's like that before you have your license, is knowing about that, that's, the source of transportation that you have. And I can still remember that going to school and then getting on the bus and getting off the bus, it was with my lunch boxes. Like I had a G.I. Joe, say lunchbox, it was, I think it was in the first grade, it was. I can remember going to school, and then the next thing, it's like anything that you want to bring to school, it was. In a lot of ways, it was like that, yeah. For whatever reason, it just seemed kind of, you say, I was at that situation to where riding on a school bus, that knowing about, it's like, takes you to a point to where that you get that riding on the school bus to go to school, did kind of, I don't know about, it seemed like what you call it's like time travel or anything like that, space travel, but it felt like that type of a situation to where that, it takes you, somewhere else, and then knowing about that whenever you're at somewhere else, then it's like, well, this ain't home, it's like being somewhere away from home. More likely, you're probably thinking about that hey, it's, this is not like riding a bike. Actually, it's much further than just riding a bike, because the school is maybe about 15 or so miles away, and then you're used to only riding maybe about a mile or two, something like that. But we could probably think about, we have our own memories, of course, our own opinions about riding the school bus it was. But on the other hand, too, so far with Color Mile, is go ahead and I'll go ahead and maybe say right here, it's like for Color Mile, go ahead and draw, it's like what you call it, it's like so you got the purple marker about right here, but with Color Mile, we could probably think about that with the memories from which we can remember about the school bus, it was if you had to rely on a school bus a lot of times to get back and forth to the school, and of course if you want to get back and forth, you say to a field trip at wherever it was, or wherever that you think that you would be going. And I even thought about it, it's like, maybe I'd like to be a bus driver one of these days. But on the other hand too, that I don't know if I would say I put it off, because I heard about the pay, that they don't pay very much. But on the other hand too, I think that bus drivers, they get paid about the same. It's like any other, I don't know about about the wages or something like that, about really how much they make. But on the other hand too, that knowing about, it's like with the bus drivers it is, and if you want to work one of these days, it's like driving a bus it is, and just knowing about, it's like the types of routes it is, and you like talk to them about, it's like the field trips, it's like knowing about, well, did you ever like, nope, I actually never did. I never did, get a bus ticket. Actually, I tried to be a good student as much as I could, and never gotten a bus ticket. Of course, I've gotten a parking ticket before, but just never a bus ticket. And a lot of us like, yep, really, what did the bus tickets look like? It's like back in the old days, I guess that they more likely look like this, and then more likely they could probably think about that. Whenever you get a bus ticket, it is, and a lot of times you're probably thinking about that, what they look like, and knowing about that they would have, like what you call, it's like your name, and then of course the reason to why you got the ticket, and of course that they may say something such as you may not, you're suspended from riding the bus for 4 days or 5 days or whatever it is. I've never gotten one, so I really cannot tell anybody about what they usually do if you wind up getting a bus ticket, it is. But in a lot of ways, I just think about it, it's good that I never did, because on the other hand too, that I try to, behave as much as I could, especially on the school bus. It's like, the bus drivers, they complain about being late a lot of times more than anything. They would complain a lot of times about being late, and of course about it's like, hey, you were supposed to be at the bus stop, or well, you missed the bus. Well, I know my parents have gotten mad at me a couple times for missing the bus too, but then knowing about, between not turning in a homework, turn in a form or whatever from the teacher would have me bring home a form to go on the field trips, had the paper, had the parents sign it and stuff, and a lot of times they would call me, it's like, irresponsible it is. But on the other hand too, that knowing about it's like, between calculating and knowing about that the amount of times that you tried is not knowing about that, the amount of times that you tried, I can maybe think about, maybe I failed to bring it to my mom or my dad or whoever at least maybe 10 times. What are you gonna do about it, miss? What are you gonna do about it, mister? Or something like that. And then more likely the teacher's like, well, I guess you're just gonna have to miss the field trip. It is. So on the other hand too, that knowing about it's like with the bus ticket and talk about with the Color Mile field trip is, I guess the best memories to know is to keep in mind about is with the field trips it was, is that knowing about that road trips are pretty much fun. It's like, it's like if you go on them, it'll make you feel part of the class it is. But on the other hand too, that knowing about, it's like the people probably thinking about, even if you do fail to turn something in, you say to the parent or back to the teacher, it is that I don't know if it would call you a failure or not. But on the other hand too, that knowing about that really, is there a way that you can make up for what you missed? More likely it will be the fact about, hey, that knowing about, you keep that in mind for somebody else that more likely is going, having to work out the same situation it is. But other than that, is talk about it's like, for keep in mind so far as the Color Mile field trip.